Hello and welcome to V, the computer game on the Commodore 64, and this was released by Ocean in 1986. And as a tie-in to the popular miniseries and TV series that was kicking around back in the early 80s, and let's get started. Right, so you take control of Mike Donovan and you're on board the alien visitor mothership, and well, the manual is a little bit thin, shall we say. It's a little vague about what you've got to do. It lists the main objective is having to plant explosives in 5 locations. And it also tells you that if you collect 5 parts of the formula for the red dust, you can then disperse it in the ship, and it makes the enemy activity slow down. And the way it's worded kind of implies that it's optional, but I've played the game with trainers and played the game in trying out various things, various combinations, and I can tell you that you do actually have to spread the red dust on the ship. It's not optional at all. You have to do it in order to complete the game. I've also read on the net that you have to plant explosives in a set order, but I found that that's not the case. You can plant them in any order you like, but after you plant the first charge, you've only got 35 minutes to complete the game, or thereabouts. So that's the objective of the game, and well, what I'll do is I'll go into a fair amount of detail about how to play it. Part of the appeal for me was learning how to play it and figuring things out, and if you were planning on playing the game, you might want to not have it spoiled for you, in which case just skip to the end of the last couple of minutes of the video just to see how I rate the game. But otherwise, if you don't care, if you're not going to play the game, and I think a lot of people probably wouldn't want to play the game anymore, and just watch on. So at the bottom of the screen is the communiputer, as it's called, which is your handheld computer that you use to, well, if I pull down, it gives us access to it. On the left hand edge, there's a little status bit, gives you bits of info from time to time. In the middle, there's a timer that's counting up your score and heart rate. You've only got the 1 life, and below that is a red charge meter for your laser. If you fire the laser, it goes down, as you can see. To the right of that, where the little flashing selector is, are 6 functions which I'll come back to, and they're used in combination with these 6 numbers which are in alien characters. And part of the game is you've got to work out what these are, and the key to working them out really is to look at the clock, because that's the only function of the clock, because that isn't a timer, it's just a clock that counts up and just looks round once it gets to the maximum. It doesn't actually, it's not a countdown timer. There is no game timer right away. The time limit only applies when you plant in the first charge, like I said. So once you've worked out, these digits are actually 0 to 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not too important until you get to the bit where you have to enter the code for the red dust, in which case you have to convert from base 10 to base 6 numbers, or you can just try it, trial and error, but the quickest way is to work out what the numbers mean and convert them. So a bit of thinking involved there, and I think that's one of the reasons the game wasn't reviewed that favourably, or is that it did require more thinking than people probably thought it did. So let's get out of this bloody room. So what you can do is, if you go down to this function here, it brings up the circuits that you use to deactivate the door, and it's like a little puzzle. So these 6 digits, they change. If I see that, when it says mode on the left, it changes the code for the door. You've got to get them all to be the same character, basically. Sometimes it throws you an awkward combination like it has now, in which case just randomise it again, just keep randomising it and try again. I've got it written down what these what numbers change which characters. So this one also changes 1 and 5. That's 1 and 4, I think. And this one's 2 and 3, and it's best to set 3 first, because this is the only one that changes the 3. And just match the rest to try and match up. And if it looks like it's not going to work, then you need to try something. You need to try just randomize it again. So that one's not going to work. So I don't think it is. No, so just randomize it again. Yeah, that one's going to work. So there we go. Barriers down and we're out. And if you look below, you can see there's a doorway there. That is a doorway that leads to another part of the ship. So the ship's split into 5 vertical planes. Plane 0 is the outer ring of the ship, and plane 4 is the inner ring. And each plane is split into 16 decks, 0 to 15, and each deck is split into 8 blocks, 0 to 7. So if I pull up this function here, this is this. I like to call it the info button. Then once you've pressed it once, then you can press the 6 digits, and they give you various locations of areas on this plane. So each plane has a main objective. So this one's got the docking bay, which we've just left, and the other planes have an objective. Like they have the water inlet, the air purification plant, the central computer, and the nuclear reactor. And this is where you've got to plant the explosives. But before you do that, you have to deal with the red dust. And each plane has 2 labs. Lab 1, Lab 2. And only one of the labs on each plane has a part of the formula. So you have to go and explore every plane. And once you've got all 5 parts, then you go to the air purification plant, enter the codes, and that will spread the red dust, and then you can go about planting the explosives. And that's basically the gist of the game. So what we'll do is we'll try and we'll find a lab. Where's the nearest lab? So it's on level 2 and we're on level 6. And each plane has, well, apart from the extremities, but they'll have an outer door and our inner door. And that'll take you, outer doors take you down a number, so towards plane 0. Inner doors will take you towards plane 4. But we'll go to lab 1, which is on level 2, so we need to go up 4 levels. So you have to use the beamer pads. So this is another thing that isn't in the TV series. They didn't have transporter technology, and they didn't have robots. So it makes me think that the game is perhaps a game that was already in development, and they just tinkered with it to turn it into a V license. So the beamer pads, generally speaking, if there's one pad, if you can see a pad below or above, it will take you to that pad. So we're on level 4. Did I go the wrong way? No, I'm going the right way. So no point taking that pad, that'll take us down. That'll take us down as well. In fact, they'll take us down, so we need to go down. Then this pad will take us back up. So you only get 1 life in the game. You see your heart rate goes too fast. You'll have a heart attack and die. So contact with the robots will raise your heart rate, and if you get shot, it'll raise your heart rate. So there's no variety in terms of the graphics. Each plane has the similar looking corridors, and I kind of understand that it's because the game, when you start the game, it randomises the locations of all the labs and all the places you've got to get to. And I think because it's so generic, I think that's why the graphics are generic, because it's got to slot in the locations of the various stuff. I think it's got just by necessity. It's fairly generic. I'm on level 3. So now I'm on level 2. I'm in block 0 and I have to get to block 2, so I'm going to have to go right. It loops round, so once you get to block 7 and keep going right, it'll take you back to block 0. So here we are at the lab. Again, back in the old codes. I mean, it is annoying at times, but you kind of get a feel for it eventually. Yeah, I don't think that's going to work, is it? Again, I don't know if that's going to work. Oh, I just screwed it up anyway. Yeah, sometimes it just throws you a really awkward one. And it does get a bit frustrating. Okay, that's going to work. 1 and 5. So all you do is access your computer, press this button here, it says no data, so that means we have to find the other lab. Let's get out of here before the battery comes back on, there we go. So we now need to find the other lab to find the data, which was in level 15, so we need to go down 13 levels. This is where the game starts to get a bit tedious. I think if it had been 8 decks, I think that it would have been a bit less tedious, but sometimes it's a real slog. It gets pretty repetitive because you've got to run all the way through 5 planes to get all the red dust formula, then spread the red dust, then you've got to go through all 5 planes again to plant explosives, and I think that's a big ask to do on one life. So I think the game is pretty hard. And sometimes, like there, you beam down to a location. Oh, better rest. You beam down to a location, and you don't know. You're going into the. You're beaming down in the dark. You don't know what's waiting for you, and sometimes it's a whole bunch of robots, and it's just instant game over, and that's pretty frustrating. But at times I did enjoy playing the game, and as I say, I enjoyed working out what all the things meant. And running around the corridors, it can be fairly absorbing at times. I say all times it's a bit repetitive, but once you know what you're doing, the game does become more appealing. I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll not go to that other lab, I'll go to a different plane. So the planes are linked by these sort of access corridors. Yeah, sort of. And they look like these little doors here. I think red ones take you out, so this will be the... Yeah, this is the outer door. So ones that have got a red symbol on them take you out, and ones that are yellow take you in. So if we take this door now, it'll take us to plane 1. So this is a laser charging point here, that too, well, sort of. I better try and rest. Yeah, sometimes you just can't hit those yellow aliens, but if you pull down at the laser charge point, it'll charge you up. You see the red bar at the bottom going up. Yeah, I just can't hit that alien, that's unfair. Anyway, let's go with this deck. Right, so yeah, graphics are pretty smart, I think. I say they lack a bit of variety, but I think they're pretty smart. The animation's good, and the robots are okay. Sound is not so good. There's a kind of annoying background hum, which does add a little bit of atmosphere, but I tend to play either with the sound turned down or even off, to be honest. So we are on level 7, and what we're trying to get to. Let's try and get to the lab on level 3. Yeah, so the sound is fairly weak, and there's no music or anything like that on the title screen. But I think the gameplay's fine. It's just a bit repetitive at times, and a little bit too hard to get to the end. So I'll give it 7.5 out of 10. And see you in the next video.